What's up, LEGO builders? It's time to continue building my massive mech. Today, I'm gonna finish both legs and maybe get the hip section started to help us really visualize how big this war machine's gonna be. Last episode, I teased one of the weapons wielded by this behemoth, a massive flamethrower capable of cooking an entire population of porgs, which I think warrants an explanation. If you're ready, get out those marshmallow roasters, open fire on that like button, and let's get building. I had to order 3 specific pieces to get more progress done this week. A mech of the size I'm planning for needs very strong joints to support its weight, and in my opinion, these 2 parts once connected create the strongest hinge piece in the LEGO system. They're used for the legs of pretty much every LEGO AT-AT set, and I combined 3 to create a mega joint for the upper ankle. The other piece I needed was this little tiled slope. Such an unimportant looking piece until I started building thrusters and rocket launchers, and now I just can't get enough of them. And of course, I had to do a little browsing just to see what other cool parts I could find on Bricklink. I found this interesting Minecraft head, and if you know what it's supposed to be, let me know in the comments. I also grabbed this head because I'm working on a new alien faction utilizing dark turquoise and coral. It's a beautiful color combo, and I'm very happy to finally get to work with dark turquoise. One of the perks of building my own universe is I get to use whatever colors I want. Star Wars had a lot of gray, red, and white, somewhat limiting what I could work with, but now everything is an option. In the last episode, I got the foot and ankle of the first leg built, which greatly helped me get a sense of scale for the project. And since you already know how the leg comes together, I went ahead and built the second one off camera so we could start this update with some serious progress. They look so cool, and I can already start to picture the mech, but they're already so big, and this is less than half of the build. How am I gonna finish this? I also only have the lower part of the leg done, so it's time to figure out what the thigh is gonna look like. Also, that's my favorite part of the chicken, so hopefully this doesn't make me too hungry. I did get part of this section done last week, but I wasn't sure how to continue it. To start, I built 2 of these panels of slopes that have a row of modified bracket bricks on the inside, some pointing up and some down. The 2 sides are joined together by a stack of cylinders connected via a pole. I feel like that's been the theme of this mech build so far. How many weird and out-of-the-box connections can I come up with since I'm building on both sides of the legs and I don't want any of the plate and brick undersides to be exposed? This chunk connects to the back side of the leg, partially covering up the ankle joint but leaving enough of it exposed that we can still see the round portion of the hinge. And speaking of mechanical, one of the mechs I've been taking inspiration from for this project is C.T. Perrin's Bridgewalker. The build has quite a few pistons supporting various parts of the legs and torso, and what better way to represent mechanical movement than those? I built 2 different piston designs, one utilizing a LEGO trash can, and the other using an astromech droid body for the top. I ended up liking each one so much I decided to use both and put the droid body piston at the top of the thigh, and the trash can piston will support the lower leg. This piston won't just be eye candy though. It solidly connects to both the lower and upper leg, taking the pressure off that second joint, which I realized this week probably wouldn't be strong enough to hold up the entire mech by itself, so I'm really glad I decided to put these in, where this thing would have folded like a Gungan taking a Boomba to the face. Once it's embedded in place, I can cover it up with a panel and slopes, making it look like the piston goes further up into the leg. After much experimenting, I realized the current frame for the thigh area just wasn't going to work. There was no good way to connect those Technic bricks to the back of the leg, and I want this part to be a little bit taller. After removing the old design, I placed 2 modified bracket bricks at the knee and built up a wall of regular brick around them. My new plan of attack here will be a brick-built frame covered by panels, which is a little bit more of my standard way of building. I also learned my lesson from the Lantern Industries skyscraper debacle, so I'm really taking my time here, trying to create a solid frame that can be handled and worked on without shattering too often. The front of the thigh is going to be comprised of a massive armored panel. I've come to realize the frame of a build doesn't need to look cool or even interesting. Once it's covered by the exterior panels and pieces, you won't even know what it looks like. The frame is just there to hold everything together, and the exterior is where you make things pretty. That being said, there is nothing groundbreaking going on here. Just brick and slope, which will hopefully help contour the shape of the leg into something nice. I do want to start thinking about details now, so I'm working dark green designs into this panel to make it look more interesting, and I need those HADF colors to be present. I built a second panel which will attach to the side running the full length of the thigh. There's a large dish at the bottom of the panel which should line up pretty well with where the knee joint would be, and I once again employed some dark green pieces for decoration. It'll be interesting to see if these panels provide enough shape or if they're too flat and need to be beefed up. All I can do for now is build them and move on. With the thigh area complete, we can get our first good look at how big this mech is going to be, and all I can say is, wow. What have I gotten myself into? The only thing bigger than this monstrosity will be my debt to income ratio after finishing the project. Each leg stands at just over 12 inches or 30 centimeters tall, meaning I'm well on my way to creating a 2-foot tall war machine that'll make minifigs look like ants. I really like how the pistons turned out. They single-handedly transform these legs and provide a much needed mechanical element. Though I'm not sure what exactly this one's supposed to do, so if you have any ideas for what its function could be, drop them in the comments. There is a large exposed section on the inside of the leg, and when I went to plate this area off, I realized I can't until I know how the leg connects to the hip and what that joint's going to look like. So this will remain open for now, but the leg's basically done at this point. So far, this series has been all about legs, and as much fun as those have been, it's time for a break. And what better way to mix things up than by building a flamethrower the size of a tank? I've put a lot of thought into what weapons this mech will wield, since you don't build something of this size just to slap a couple random guns on it. The mech is this size for a reason and will carry specialized armaments to fill a specific role. To better understand what that is, we need to dive back into the lore of my world of Kofera. Last episode, we learned the Quadranid aliens fled to this planet to escape the captivity of the being they called the Hungry One. They also explained more about the Hungry One's armies, tactics, and ultimate goal, which clearly terrified the HADF to the point of creating Project Stormwall, which is this mech I'm currently building. The HADF also learned that the trans-purple liquid found on their planet called Comultium can be altered into a highly effective fuel source and propellant, thus giving them a way to power a normally impossibly large machine. And apparently a massive flamethrower will be effective against one of the swarming tactics employed by this strange alien warlord who could be at this very moment on his way to Kofera looking for the Quadranids and their technology. Normally flamethrowers have a max range of about 80 meters or 260 feet due to the limited power of the propulsion and the viscous nature of the propellant. But the Comultium can help the liquid napalm travel much further, and the massive size and power of this flamethrower can launch flames up to a staggering 1,000 feet away, cooking whatever it is that's swarming forward before it can hit friendly lines. But this is also a pretty messy weapon, so there are a lot of kinks still being worked out, as well as failsafes and security measures being installed. This massive drum will hold the fuel and connect to the side of the flamethrower. There is a smaller tank attached next to it holding other vital elements of the fuel. Now it's time for the barrel, or in this case, barrels. I'm taking inspiration from the Warhammer 40k Heavy Flamer, which has 2 nozzles or barrels on the front. I'm using 4x4 round bricks as the base for the barrel and stacking a series of 1x1 cylinders on top to create the shape. I'm using these because I want to try and include different textures and shapes along the barrel so it doesn't end up looking like a boring tube. At the very end will be one of these pearl gray baskets that are open in the middle and taper outwards towards the top. This should provide the perfect nozzle to cap off each of the barrels. That being said, after I finished the barrel, I was looking at it and something just didn't feel right to me. After thinking for a bit, I realized this is too uniform in its shape and looks less like a gun barrel and more like a rocket ship thruster. So I cooked up this prototype that looks much better. I used only 2x2 and 2x4 size tubes to create a smoother finish and put a 4x4 cone at the back to get that tapered look. The only thing left to do is connect the fuel drum to the flamethrower. It's got to be some kind of flexible pipe. I had an idea to create my own using a flex tube and a bunch of round plate and tile. I strung the round plate and tiles on the tubes, spacing them just far enough apart that it can still bend, and repeated that until the whole thing was covered up. The now flexible pipe attaches to the back of the fuel drum and the flamethrower. I can't say I'm in love with this flamethrower design yet, but I like where it's headed. The overall structure looks good, but it feels a little too simple, almost cartoonish. I think it's because there isn't a lot of detail or greebling present, especially on the body. I do like how the fuel tank and cable turned out though. This looks just as good as I'd hoped, and if I can get the rest of the body to match the level of intrigue this back section has, I should be good to go. Here you can really see how much better the second barrel design is to that ship thruster looking one. So my first order of business moving forward will be to swap it out for the better design, thus completing the barrels. I don't have a lot of space on the flamethrower housing for greebling because of the fuel drum, but I think if I remove these ingots, I can replace them with something better, in the form of frogs. I've been trying to branch out from the normal lineup of pieces I use when building, especially in the detail department. It can be easy to fall into a rut of using the same elements over and over, so I thought this would be a great opportunity to use frogs as vents or dispensers of some kind. I bought dark bluish gray frogs so they wouldn't stand out too much, since this is a flamethrower after all, not a vivarium. Each one will sit on a round tile base and will line the bottom and part of the top of the build. This next bit of detail will have an aesthetic and morale boosting function. I want to incorporate flags as much as I can on the build, just like the mighty battleships of World War II or Titans of Warhammer 40k. Nothing will make the citizens and soldiers of the HADF cheer like seeing this massive behemoth march out to battle flying the colors of their nation. This is already looking much better. It just needed a little more detail. The vents are kind of hidden by the tank on the bottom, but I still like them. However, I'm thinking about removing this little tank so I can run more vents along the top. Let me know if you like that idea in the comments or if I should just leave it as is. I'm excited to finally get to start adding flags to the mech, though these will need to be soaked in some pretty serious flame retardant or else they won't survive the first battle. I keep thinking I'm going to get more built than I actually do in each update, but I forget how time consuming a large project like this can be. That being said, I'm very pleased with what got done this week. Now that the legs are finished, I can turn my full attention to the hip segment, and I've already started planning how I'm going to build the frame for the body. As always, these mech updates will only drop when I have the time and pieces for another episode, so expect the next one sometime in July. That's a wrap for today, and I will catch you all next time, but until then, happy building.